Hey you guys, Mar-Lyn with Beautiful Bina Designs here today with a card share. Today I am going to be sharing cards that I made using the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit from August 2018. This kit was all about coffee and it came with a great stamp set, dies to cut those stamps out, really all focused around coffee cups, coffee mugs, teacups, even hot chocolate, whatever you want them to be. Lots of fun sentiments. I did do an unboxing. I'll link it below just in case you haven't seen this great kit yet. I'm not sure it's still available. I do believe it may have sold out, but I have 14 cards to share with you today, and I'm sharing them in no particular order, except I am starting with this card, and I did do a process video on this card, so I'll link that below as well. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here because if you have any questions or interested in learning more about the process, you can have a quick look at that video. But here is card number 1. And then very similar, here is a second card just like that. When I do those process videos, sometimes I create everything in the moment and I just put things together right there on the video, but sometimes I will do a first draft, so to speak, and I really don't like two exact cards. So this was my first draft, and then card number 1 that I showed you was the one I did the process video on. Both very similar, and again, I'll link that process video below. Here we have a third card, and this one uses several of the stamps. These I colored using the Arteza Real Brush pens, which are water-based. They're like watercolor markers, and I used 2 different cardstocks, used a black strip to bring those together, some iridescent sequins, and those steam. All of these sentiments, as well as the hearts, did come with the My Monthly Hero Kit. Card number 3. Card number 4, I think, might be my favorite of all from this kit. And traditionally, I save my favorite for last, but with so many cards this month, I'm just sharing them as they're stacked up here. Sending you a latte love. So this particular sentiment was straight across and it was quite long. I decided to cut my stamp in half and stack the 2 halves of that sentiment. I can still easily put them back together. If you have never seen somebody do something similar, as a quick tip, you can definitely cut your clear stamp sentiments and use them either in a new way or piece them back together and use them in their original form. I used some of that clear glaze, they call it the clear lacquer, I believe, and then put the white puff embossing powder over it to create these foam designs up top. The background is black cardstock with several of the different stamps from the set, and then I embossed that using Ranger Detail embossing powder, a heart-shaped piece of vellum to break things up a little bit, and there is card number 4. Card number 5, I have a couple in here where I used the background die from last month's kit. I believe it was last month's kit, the county fair, that came with that fancy background die. Life Begins After Coffee. These I colored with Distress ink, the original Distress inks, and I blended them on, and I purposely left a strip of the white cardstock in the center because I thought it gave it just a little bit of sort of a tiger's eye look. I thought that was kind of cool, and this is the first time I've done that. I think I might do more with that because I really do like the look of it. Then I splashed it with a little bit of water. I added again that Ranger Gold embossing powder and a gem just for a little bit of interest, just for a little bling. On several of these cards, including this one, I did use my Wink of Stella pen to give that coffee just a little bit of shimmer. On our next card here, I used a piece of patterned paper. I believe this came from, oh gosh, you guys, please don't hold me to this, but I think it's the Pebbles Girl Squad or My Squad, I don't know. I'll link it below and I'll get it right there. But I used a piece of the pattern paper from that because I thought that those coffee cups just went perfectly. And I matched the colors again using, this one actually is my Arteza markers, and this one over here I used Distress inks. I then added just a couple of coordinating sequins and some of the sentiments from the kit. Matted it on black, put it on a white card base. For all of these cards here, I did use my Cougar Digital 110-pound cardstock. Next, this is another one of my favorites. I have a couple here that I really love, but here I used a card panel that I had made previously using, I believe it was the original Distress inks, but it could possibly have even been the Distress Oxide. This was on an occasion where I did some ink smushing, and I enjoy ink smushing. It's fun, and once you have that ink out, you might as well use all of it up. So I will occasionally create background panels and create more than I'm able to use on that particular day. And so I have a little place where I store those away. When I need a background, I go into that little basket and check to see if I have anything that might work. I thought this background was perfect for the feeling, the vibe that I was going for with this card. I added some gold embossed butterflies. Again, these were created previously. This is something I used on a different project. I'll link that below as well. That was a butterfly card that I created, and I did share it on YouTube. And then I also added just a little bit of that gold embossing powder to match the butterflies. I added that to the steam. The panel that I had previously created is the same size as this cafe background. So in order to bring it all together, I simply put a little bit of oxide ink around the border of that white cardstock card base. Coffee is always a good idea, and I think this is a cute card for inviting one of my friends out for a coffee or just a get together, catch up kind of chat session. I do like this one. I think it's fun. Next, we have one. I struggled with this one a little bit. I took a piece of black cardstock, die cut out the shapes for each of these mugs, and then I thought I would inlay them back in and pop the whole thing up. And I thought it would look really cool, and it did, but then I wasn't really sure where to go from there. And honestly, I think this card could probably use just a little bit more, but I wasn't sure how to bring it home, so to speak. So I don't know, maybe you guys have some ideas. How could I have created this card differently where it would be a little bit more interesting? I'd love to hear from you. Something I would like to share is that for this embellishment here, as well as the 3 mugs, I did cover them completely multiple times in clear gloss embossing powder, just to give them more of an embellishment look as opposed to a paper die cut. And I think that worked especially well for this sentiment, but first coffee. So we have give it a shot, get stuff done, take a break. But first, coffee, right? Take that break. So there is the next card. Here we have one. Coffee is always a good idea, and I used some pattern paper once again. This just reminds me of maybe some bamboo, sort of like a bamboo placemat on a table. I created these with my alcohol markers. The coffee cups are all colored in with alcohol markers. Once again, using that wink of Stella on the coffee itself to create a little bit of shine and shimmer. I used the ribbon that the kit came wrapped in as an embellishment, and then I used just a little bit very watered down brown watercolor marker with a paintbrush just to ground those images, because they did seem to me like they were floating a bit, and so I wanted to give a bit more of a realistic look by adding that shadow. I did put all of this on a mustard colored card base. So there we have that one. Here you may recognize this card base. I had also done a previous video on this one. This was one of those, again, the fancy background die from the previous kit. And for this one, I had used my oxide inks to color 3 pieces of cardstock in 3 different shades of yellow. And then I cut each of them using that background die and pieced them back together in a bit of a pattern, blending those 3 yellows together. It was lemonade, mustard seed, and antique linen are the 3 shades that I used. That antique linen is a little bit more of a cream, but it did bring a nice variance of color here. I have 3 coffee cups, one with that foam topping and this fun straw, and the other 2 with to-go caps. Espresso yourself, give it a shot. I think this one's kind of fun. And there you have the next card. Moving right along, if I'm being honest, this one is probably my least favorite. I loved the color combinations. I watercolored these coffee mugs. They're the pedestal mugs, and I really loved the way they came out. I die cut them, and I thought they were super cute. I pulled in another piece of pattern paper and then a strip of green textured cardstock. I used this scalloped circle die and then eventually added some of the jewel tone in green. I forget the actual name of it, but the jewel tone Nouveau drops, and then ultimately some of the green and pink twine. Definitely a lot going on here, and I felt like it would bring it together and really just make it look like a complete, you know, well thought out card. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I think maybe it still needs a little something. So I don't know. That's my second card. That the last one I do like though. This one kind of on the fence. So again, you guys let me know. What do you think? Love to hear from you. Moving along, here's another one that I really like. This piece, the 2 pieces of patterned paper, the panel as well as the strip, are from the Floral Brilliance paper pad that I picked up from Tuesday Morning about a month ago. I made a video using that paper pad where I created 4 cards, and I'll go ahead and link that below as well. I'm gonna have several links this month, it looks like. I used, again, those Arteza markers to watercolor these coffee cups. Thanks a Whole Latte, Wink Estella to add some shimmer, and then we have these rose gold stud elements that I added on top for some interest. Really like that one. I do think that one's a lot of fun. All right, as my final A2 size card for this video, You're the Cream in My Coffee. These, I tried to make the mugs look like white ceramic, added that coffee. I used, again, that circle scallop die, but this time on the coffee and tea stained paper that came with the kit. Once again, I used that clear lacquer, the pen that came with the kit, and that white puff embossing powder that came with the kit. I used that to make the foam. I also used a background die. It is a Stephanie Bernard for Sizzix background die. It came with one of the sets that I bought from her, and I think that with that brown background behind that heart die cut, it creates a card that doesn't introduce a lot of color. It's not very busy, but because of that background with those hearts cut out, it is still very pretty and very interesting. I like this one a lot. And then finally today, you guys, I have got an oversized card. I'm really enjoying making these lately, and I've shared a few here on my channel recently. Here is a hug in a mug in a rainbow pattern on a background of a sky and some grass, using the heart stamp that came with the set and some iridescent sequins. Opening it up, sending hugs. I think this one is cute. It's special because it's oversized. It's a little bit different than your standard card, and I look forward to sharing this with someone who I'd really like to send some hugs to. Somebody who needs a hug maybe, or somebody who I just think deserves a hug. So here are my cards for this month's kit. I appreciate you spending some time with me. I hope that I've inspired you to make beautiful things. I love hearing from you. So there's a few cards where I have asked specifically for your input, but for any of my cards, if you've got some great ideas, I love hearing that. And I look forward to talking with you guys again soon. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.